Fairies, fallen angels. That's a good one. Let's tap into this one and find out what's going on.
Fairies have absolutely nothing to do with Disney, and they're quite dark and scary. Went to the Leprechaun Museum in Dublin, and they have a whole thing about fairies and how Walt Disney actually owns all of the like historical references for fairies and all of this fairy like antiques and ephemera. He went and bought it all in the 40s and 50s.
Do you think he's hiding it?
Yes, it's in the Disney vault somewhere. But then he turned it into this weird kind of Tinkerbell empire thing. Whereas they're quite dark and they're quite scary.
Why do you consider them so dark?
I have had encounters with them. They are on the one hand playful, but also if you look at real fairy tales, right? Like if you go back and you look at the real fairy tales, that's some dark shit, right? And it's foundationally based in some ancient dark magics, and it can be dangerous. That's all I'm saying. It's not nice and sweet and fly around and flutter your wings and all of that.
So what's the dark side of it?
I mean, look at Changelings and not the HBO show, the real Changelings, right? They would come and they would take your baby and leave another baby.
Swap your babies out?
Yeah. Fairies have absolutely nothing to do.
So I'm not saying that I agree or disagree with any of these video takes that I'm getting ready to, or these video clips rather, that I'm getting ready to react to, right? I'm just covering a topic. I don't co-sign. I don't vouch for. I don't agree with every video. And this video is no different, guys. Fairies are a regional thing. They come from the European cultures, right? Now, just because we understand that anything that's not of God is automatically demonic, just because we understand that, as you'll see this woman in the next clip state, it doesn't matter that we don't believe in this sort of stuff. It doesn't matter that we don't give this stuff credence, right? There are people and cultures that do. Now, some will say that these are fallen angels, that these fairies are really fallen angels, as you'll see in another clip that I'm going to play for you in a few moments. Whether that's the belief that you have, or whether you just believe that this is something demonic, or you don't believe that any of this stuff actually exists, all of those beliefs are fine for you to have. I'm not here to tell you how to think. I'm just covering this story because I think it's interesting that it's popping up on my timeline so much. I don't ever search anything about fairies. I'm not interested in fairies, but it's popped up on my feed multiple times within the last 2 days. And so I guess I'm led to talk about it. So I want to play this video clip for you right here.
You don't mess with fairies. The general rule of thumb is don't even try. Don't even acknowledge them. Don't talk about them. I'm messing up right now. We're talking about them.
What's the thing about these things? Like, what are they?
So people think that fairies are little Tinkerbell-esque creatures. That's the image that we've been given through media, mostly, right? Yeah. But that version of the fairy only really became popularized in the Victorian age. That's when we started seeing a lot of illustrations of like tiny little, clean little cute women, mostly with tiny little wings that look like dragonflies or butterflies. Prior to that, fairies come predominantly from European folklore and largely from Irish folklore. And they were described as all sorts of things. In Irish folklore, fairies are sometimes the spirits of the dead. Sometimes they're spirits of long dead Celtic kings and queens.
They're not
and
cutesy.
It comes out of this long mythological lineage. So they're not tiny little innocent pixies. They're kind of terrifying spirits, essentially. And then you kind of get into the study of fairies more broadly, and every culture has a different kind of being, or multiple different kinds of beings that might be described as fairies. You don't mess with fairies.
I think it's pretty interesting. I got one more clip from this woman in particular.
I don't believe in demons in the way that most people would use the word. Okay. So to me, a demon is a certain class of spirit. Not always, but oftentimes when Christians use the word demon, they're kind of talking about any spirit, because that's what's in the Bible. Like, you know, the Bible is basically like any kind of spirit, any other god, deity, things in Buddhism, it's all demons. Anything that's not God is demons. That's not my worldview, so that's not my belief. I do think that demons are real, creatures that we would call more demonic entities. In my worldview, we're talking about spirits like the kinds of spirits we see in the Ars Goetia, which is a grimoire. Those are demonological spirits. Do I think that entities of various kinds, we may call them demons, we may not, can influence people to do bad things to themselves or others? Absolutely. I think we're actually all a lot more susceptible to spirit influence than we realize. And I think certain people who are unhappy, people who are going through addiction issues, people who have certain kinds of mental health issue, for sure are are more susceptible.
This is why you need to be covered by the blood of Jesus, guys. It's plain and simple. Now, I am a Christian and I do subscribe to anything that is not of the Spirit of God is a demonic spirit. If it's not sent from God, if it's not from heaven, it's demonic, right? So yes, I do believe that any other deity, any other little g gods that people are out here worshiping, those are demons. That's what I believe. And I'm okay with people having a disagreement about that. It doesn't matter. It's not a salvation issue. But what I do want to say is that there are people out here that say that these demons or that these pixies or these fairies or whatever are something more than what we've been led to believe through like Hollywood and lesser magic and predictive programming, right? Walt Disney is a demonic man, guys. He's done so much when it comes down to cartoons and the deception and things that's put into it, and people are none the wiser. The man must have studied demonology, because there's mermaid spirits, there's all types of demons all throughout his creations, these dreams that he had, these cartoons that he created, all this stuff. There's so much demonic stuff, guys, and it's put right in our faces. And here we are thinking it's cute and cuddly because it's the cartoons from our childhood. Now I want to play you this video on what fairies are.
But given these circumstances that build up to seeing one, it's understandable why you would rather avoid them. Another commonly held belief is that fairies were once pagan deities. As their belief and worship began to disappear, they were demoted to just mythical beings. The church echoes a similar idea. However, fairies in this case were once angels who had been demoted. The story states that during a revolt in heaven, God ordered the gates to be shut. Those inside remained angels, those in hell became demons, and those in between became fairies. Eventually, by the 17th century, the church began to see all fairies as demons. The brownies and hobgoblins, which were once seen as friendly house spirits, were now seen by many as wicked goblins. Even the idea of fairies had become associated with acts of witchcraft, and thus those spreading these stories were punished in a similar way. The idea of fairies being or representing the souls of the dead appears quite often. In both Scotland and Ireland, there is a fairy known as the slough or sluch that flies through the air during Halloween. This is a cloudy mass largely composed of the souls of the dead, flying together almost like a flock of birds. Pre-Christianity, they were considered some of the most vile members of the unseelie court. Wherever they went, the feeling of hopelessness and sadness followed. Humans would avoid them at all costs. The church then gave the slough a more physical or human description. Rather than fairies, they became the souls of sinners and those who refused to repent. They were cursed to fly through the air together for eternity. Now, as we've seen today, the word fairy is very much a blanket term, used by many cultures to categorize a group of creatures within their folklore. These creatures can have fairly joyous stories, but they can also be part of very tragic tales. If you have any stories of fairies, movies, TV shows, or books where you enjoyed their depiction, feel free to share those in the comments section.
So guys, this is the creature on the left is what they're saying that these fairies actually look like, when what we see on the right is what is the modern depiction of what a fairy is, where it's almost a seductive depiction, a lustful depiction, because as perverted as it is, people wanted you to be interested in Tinkerbell. Why, guys? Ask yourself why a cartoon character for kids would be posed as sexy. It makes no sense to me. But here's the thing. I don't necessarily subscribe to what this video is saying about the church in the days of old. I'm not from that old school version of the church, so I can't say why they would say that fairies are the spirits of sinners and stuff flying around, and that's just not true, guys. That's not true at all. We know that if a sinner dies, he's destined to be in hell. Once the lake of fire is opened up, that's where they will spend eternity. They're not flying around. There's no more demons being created. There's no, the number of demons is what it is, right? So that's just not true now. So yeah, guys, do with this information what you will. I had no clue about some of this stuff. Now, I did know that fairies weren't really supposed to be pretty and stuff like that. I did know that they're supposed to look like demons. But ultimately, guys, I don't believe that they're fallen angels. I don't believe anything like that. But I'm just sharing this information with you, covering the topic because it kept popping up on my timeline. And let me know your thoughts on this down below in the comment section. I'll leave every video that I reacted to linked in the description to give the content creators credit for their work, as well as to make it easy for you to follow them if that's what you choose to do. But that's going to do it for this one. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Until then, God bless.
Point blank, they're demons. That's all they are. They're just another version of a demon. Yeah, they're just demons. That's all they are. They're just old school demons.
Switching it up.